Hi guys, today we're going to talk about mitochondria, chloroplasts, and the endosymbiotic theory. Mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. They're the site for cellular respiration. They convert glucose into ATP, which is a usable form of energy for the cells. They are also found in almost all eukaryotic cells, including animal cells and plant cells. They have a double membrane structure with an inner membrane and an outer membrane. Um, that separate the two membranes with an intermembrane space. Chloroplasts are known as the food factory for plants and algae. They're the site for photosynthesis. They convert sunlight into glucose, and they can also contain chlorophyll and other pigments that give them this greenish color. So mitochondria and chloroplasts actually have many shared features. First, they have double membranes, meaning they have an outer membrane and an inner membrane with an intermembrane space, a space between those two membranes. They also have their own DNA and their own ribosomes that's separate from the eukaryotic cell that they are part of. They can divide or reproduce independently through a process known as binary fission. And they also resemble prokaryotic cells, even though they are normally found in eukaryotic cells. So that's why scientists started thinking about or coming up with this theory called the endosymbiotic theory. And this theory was first proposed by Lynn Margulis in the 1960s. She proposed that in a long time ago, there was an ancestral eukaryotic cell that engulfed or consumed an aerobic bacterium. That bacterium had its own DNA and its own ribosome, but after being engulfed, that bacteria actually benefited from this being engulfed, and it was beneficial for its survival. And the cell itself was being benefited by the bacterium, and it was getting energy from this bacterium. So eventually, through several generations of evolution, that bacterium and this relationship that they had, called a symbiotic relationship where both organisms benefited, that bacterium became part of the cell and later became known as a mitochondrion or mitochondria that is a powerhouse of the cell today. It gave the cell lots of energy, and in return, the cell was helping that bacterium or mitochondria survive. And that makes sense for why mitochondria today have their own very own DNA and their own ribosomes. And within this theory, similarly, Lynn Margulis stated that the ancestral eukaryotic cell might have also engulfed a photosynthetic bacterium, a bacterium capable of conducting photosynthesis to create its own food, and eventually, through another symbiotic relationship of both the bacterium and the eukaryotic cell. Benefiting from being from engulfing and being engulfed, that and through several generations of evolution, that photosynthetic bacterium became known as a chloroplast in plants, and now that chloroplast helps the plant create its own food. So this is what we call a symbiotic relationship, a beneficial relationship for both organisms. But through multiple generations of evolution, if this is a beneficial relationship for both parties involved, then they can become part of the cell and become its own permanent organelles, like we see today. What is the evidence that supports endosymbiosis? Well, chloroplasts and mitochondria both have their very own circular DNA, similar to what bacterial structures, where bacteria also have their very own circular DNA. Ribosomes within the chloroplast and the mitochondria, they have their own, also resemble the ribosomes found in bacterial cell structures. All of both chloroplasts and mitochondria divide by themselves by binary fission, similar to how bacteria divide by binary fission, where one cell with one circular DNA, the circular DNA doubles and then the cell splits into two cells. This is how not only bacteria divide, but also chloroplasts and mitochondria on their own. And but chloroplasts and mitochondria also are similar in size to prokaryotes. So all these rack up as evidence to show that chloroplasts and mitochondria might have been ancient bacterial cells that have been engulfed by eukaryotic cells because they're functioning on their own with their own DNA inside the eukaryotic cells. So in summary, mitochondria are places where ATP is produced through respiration. Chloroplasts are places where glucose is produced through photosynthesis. Both chloroplasts and mitochondria have double membranes. They have their own DNA, and they have prokaryotic origins. They're not thought to have prokaryotic origins. The endosymbiotic theory explains their evolution and explains why they are part of eukaryotic cells today, including humans. In the next video, we're going to talk about the cytoskeleton, which is a network of protein fibers inside the cell. They maintain cell shape and organization, they enable movement of organelles and vesicles, and they're essential for cell division. That's it. Thank you.